Tonight, 3 additional COVID-19 related deaths and 90 new cases yesterday confirmed, taking the country's pandemic totals to 46,428 confirmed cases and 801 deaths. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of National Security, Matthew Samoda, says the work of the Private Security Regulation Authority's regional office in Montego Bay has led to better regulation and monitoring of the space in Western Jamaica.
We look at Western Jamaica as being a part of that V-shaped economic recovery. And with that economic recovery, you're going to have greater need for the regulatory side of the security industry to be even stronger in Western Jamaica.
Still tonight, appeal made for assistance to locate the main suspect in the murder of 65-year-old Theodore Walling in March of 2020, while 4 other men have been listed as wanted for murder. And concerns raised about the destruction of mangroves in Green Island for the development of a hotel in the area.
Every time there's a development, there is an impact on the community and there's an impact on the environment. What we want to ensure is that the positives outweigh the negatives and that the benefits of these developments far outweigh the costs to the environment and to the community.
Good evening. 3 additional COVID-19 related deaths have been recorded on the island, while 90 new cases of the virus were confirmed yesterday, May 6. Now the latest figures takes the country's pandemic totals to 46,428 confirmed cases and 801 deaths. 49 women and 41 men aged between 1 to 95 years account for the new cases that were recorded in all parishes except for Trelawney. St. Catherine recorded 23 cases. 19 cases were recorded in Kingston and St. Andrew. 17 cases were recorded in St. Anne. 9 cases in Clarendon. 6 cases were recorded in St. James. 4 in St. Elizabeth. 3 each in Manchester and Westerland. 2 cases were recorded in Hanover, while Portland and St. Thomas recorded 1 case each. The 3 persons that died are a 48-year-old male from Portland, a 66-year-old female from Manchester, and an 88-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew. The island also recorded 125 recoveries yesterday, taking that total to 22,018. There are now 23,267 cases currently active. In other news tonight, millions of dollars have been left uncollected by recipients of the government's Own Your Own Device program. Now, Minister of Education Favour Williams has indicated that the ministry has so far issued 20,207 vouchers to successful applicants. Under the program, the ministry provides vouchers valued at $20,000 each towards the purchase of a laptop or tablet. Minister Williams, while speaking in the House of Representatives on Wednesday, informed that only 9,524 vouchers have been redeemed. This leaves a difference of 10,683, which translates to over $213 million. She says her ministry will be examining the program to see why recipients have not redeemed their electronic vouchers. Now, the Own Your Own Device program is an initiative through which the government is assisting with the purchase of tablets or laptops for students who are in need but are not on the program of advancement through health and education path. It benefits needy students in primary and secondary schools island-wide. Parents or guardians are provided with a $20,000 electronic voucher to buy a device from an approved vendor. Still making the news tonight, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of National Security, Matthew Samuda, says the work of the Private Security Regulation Authority, PSRA, regional office in Montego Bay, St. James, has led to better regulation and monitoring of the space in Western Jamaica.
Today we're just visiting to see how things are going. One of the industries that has been affected by COVID-19 perhaps pretty heavily, especially on the employment side, is security. Because with the closure of many properties last year for tourism workers, security was also affected because they didn't carry the full slate of security guards. So even when you think and consider with significantly reduced traffic at the airports, etc., and at many of your seaports, you would have much less use for security. Then additionally, with reduced working times, we know that there's been some, I wouldn't call it a hemorrhage, but certainly a little bit of fallout in the security industry. Now, one of the things that's important to us is that as we look at our economic recovery, and as the Prime Minister has spoken to our intent on having a V-shaped recovery, this is one of the industries that we know is particularly important. The private security industry is without a doubt a critical pillar of national stability, both economic and because it contributes to the safety of Jamaicans.
Mr. Samuda, who yesterday toured the regional office, which was officially opened in October last year, told journalists that the regulatory agency has been steadily creating buoyance in the West, as well as ensuring that minimum performance standards are being practiced by private security companies across the board.
The pandemic has hit the legal and the illegal security companies, and I wouldn't classify them quite as illegal, I'd classify them as unregulated. They're legally registered business. What they're not doing is complying with all of the regulations in the space. Now, our job at PSRA is to bring them in and to ensure that they function, because it's about standardization and ensuring that the industry itself is buoyant and healthy, but that when people see security guards, they can be assured of a particular minimum standard of delivery. So it's a regulatory agency, no two ways about it, but our interest is the buoyance of the industry, as well as ensuring that there's minimum performance standards. So it's to everybody's benefit for it to happen. Now, opening and increasing our footprint in the West has certainly increased our ability to regulate and monitor the space in Western Jamaica. But it's difficult to determine just how much of an impact we've had because of the fallout in employment in the sector, even though we're starting to see it come back, and we think it's coming back even faster than we had anticipated.
In the meantime, Mr. Samuda commended the team at the PSRA's regional office in Montego Bay. He says his ministry will provide all the necessary resources to ensure the entity's continued effectiveness in Western Jamaica.
We're here to ensure that the office is running well, and that the team also knows that we hold them near and dear, and we come and check in on them from time to time and make sure that things are running well, and if they have any needs, we're able to fulfill them. But we look at Western Jamaica as being a part of that V-shaped economic recovery. And with that economic recovery, you're going to have greater need for the regulatory side of the security industry to be even stronger in Western Jamaica, because as your hotels all reopen, as you have new hotels being built, as you have general expansion in commerce, not just with the recovery to 2019 levels, but beyond, you're going to need a stronger security environment, and PSRA is a critical part of that.
Now, Mr. Samuda further outlined the challenges of regulating the private security industry and how the government plans to remedy that situation.
The legislative framework that governs the private security industry is inadequate. Like much of our legislation, and we're in a rush to kind of bring it into the 21st century, even if it's kicking and screaming, right? One of the issues that has affected the private security industry is that the private security industry interacts and is regulated at some level by 3 ministries. And if you think of how difficult it is, to manage regulation generally with one agency or one ministry managing an industry, in a space where the industry interacts heavily with the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Labour, and indeed the Ministry of National Security, that has created its own, I think, policy vacuum. That's an issue that we are indeed looking at, and we're looking to modernize the legislative framework that governs it. We'll set minimum operating standards and minimum training requirements for those businesses that are a part of the security industry. And that's particularly important. We also have to understand that security industry is not a man carrying a baton. Those days are long since gone. The issues that the security industry deal with are wide and diverse and in many cases complex. We have to modernize the legislation and regulations so that PSRA indeed manages that industry properly. But as it stands now, PSRA monitors to make sure minimum standards are in place. The training level is one of the areas of concern to me personally, because the footprint of PSRA is too small to truly go into the field and check everybody's training level, and that is a concern. What we check is basic minimum standards. However, the minimum requirements on the law, I believe, are also weak. So even with the regulatory framework increasing, and the evidence of that is with the Western office, we still need to now make sure that the legislation and the space gives us the room to indicate that people on the front line have to have particular training, because it doesn't right now.
In news from Westerland, a wanted man was fatally shot during a confrontation with the police on Great George Street, Savannah, Lamar at approximately 3:35 p.m. yesterday. He has been identified as Jason Grant, otherwise called Wani, of a Savannah, Lamar address in the parish. 1.38 revolver with 5.38 rounds was recovered. The matter has been reported to the Independent Commission of Investigations (INDECOM) and the Inspectorate and Professional Standards Oversight Bureau (IPROBE). Still tonight, detectives in St. James who are working to solve a year-old murder case are renewing their appeal to the public for their assistance in locating the main suspect in the murder of 65-year-old Theodore Walling. He was found dead in Montego Bay in March of 2020. Investigators have identified the man as Sonnyman Walker, otherwise called Shortman. He is believed to frequent Montego Bay and areas of Trelawney. Walker was identified as a suspect following investigations, following the discovery of Walling's body in a hotel in the second city. Walling, a retired quality control inspector from the United States, was reportedly vacationing on the island when he was murdered. Anyone with information that can assist investigators is being asked to contact detectives at 876-953-6991 or 876-684-9080. Crime Stop at 311, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. 3 other men have also been listed as wanted across the country. They are Andrew Thompson, also known as Goblin, who is wanted for murder; Richard Higgins, also known as Bob, also wanted for murder; and Orlando Crossdale, also known as Lando, wanted for murder as well. In news from the capital now, the Halfway Tree Police are seeking the public's assistance to locate a man believed to be involved in a case of robbery. He is said to frequent the Malines Road and Seaward Drive areas. Lawmen are appealing to anyone with information that can assist them in finding this man to contact the Halfway Tree Police at 876-926-8184, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. As we continue with the news tonight, concerns are being raised about the destruction of mangroves in Green Island for the development of a hotel in the area. Now our news team spoke with President of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, Richard Wallace, who said that the positives derived from these developments must outweigh the negative impact on the society and the people of the parish.
The Negril Chamber welcomes all development to this area. We have no problems with development because we know the value of what it can do for the country. However, every time there's a development, there is an impact on the community, and there's an impact on the environment. What we want to ensure is that the positives outweigh the negatives, and that the benefits of these developments far outweigh the cost to the environment and to the community. We know that in terms of the environment, we know that NEPA has granted permits for this development to take place. Now, we understand that there is no development that can happen without a negative impact on the environment. What we hope is that NEPA, who is mandated to protect the environment on behalf of the people of Jamaica, that they have done their work and they have ensured that the impact of this development to the environment in the area is at a minimum, and that I'm sure that there are conditions to their approval for this permit, and I hope that they will ensure that these conditions are met.
As he outlined the economic growth these developments will bring to the parish, Mr. Wallace urged the developers to ensure the proper infrastructure is put in place to sustain the large developments.
We understand that these developments bring a lot of commercial activity to the community. It boosts the economy. You know, it will boost visitor arrivals to Jamaica. It will stir economic growth in the community of Green Island, and we welcome that. One of the things that we want to see as well is that the infrastructure is put in to sustain such a large development. Infrastructure I'm talking about are like, you know, I know they're going to employ thousands of people. Where are these people going to live? You know, where are their children going to go to school? Where are, you know, the other services that they need, you know, hospital services, medical services, all of these things need to be in place. Otherwise, we will end up with a haphazard growth, you know, with squatter communities and so forth developing around. So, you know, another big question regarding this development is the water supply. Right now, we're having water issues in Negril, and we are told it's because of the drought. Now, this is happening already without 2,000 additional rooms that are coming on stream from this development. What's going to happen when that comes on stream, you know? I must say, though, that we are aware that the government is moving to put a pipeline from Roaring River to Negril, and that should alleviate some of the water problems. So we are happy about that, and you know, this is the kind of thing that we need to spur development in the area.
A member of the Chamber of Commerce, Sophie Grizzle-Romel, expressed concerns relating to the environmental impacts of the new development.
I think as a nation we need to understand more the importance of mangroves, how they protect us, they protect our livelihoods, they create a home for fish to spawn and grow. They specifically protect us during storms. They make the waves less strong when they hit the shore, and they stop flooding. Now, the Negril area is a very low-lying, flat area, and I think the reason why the mangroves developed there was as a protection for the community, and so the destruction of the mangroves is very, very unfortunate. We're not sure what exactly is taking place because I haven't visited it. NEPA is supposed to monitor what is taking place and that it's being done according to the what they were given as the contract, to the permission to build there. So the concern is NEPA really following through as they're supposed to. Unfortunately, as a country, we have not a very good track record where the environment is concerned. And I think we need, as a nation, we need our leaders, our politicians, our governments, and also our government agencies to be more aware of how important protecting our shores are.
Mrs. Grizzle Romel implored the government to spend more time on money to explore what we have and how to develop these spaces.
I think we need to have a plan of how we develop Jamaica into the future. We need to understand the importance of what we have, whether it's a beach, a mangrove, a dry mountain, what their job is to protect us as a nation. And I feel that we haven't reached that stage yet, and I'm imploring the government to spend some time and money to understand what we have and how to develop it. The project in Green Island, I think it's great that we have a project, but I think it could have been done differently with less damage to the environment, and I think it's not the fault of the developer. It's we as a country has allowed the developer put forward a plan and we accepted it. Maybe they made some changes, I'm not sure. But we as a nation has to understand that these developers will still develop. They go to other countries and develop environmentally and more sustainably than we are allowing to be done in Jamaica. And I think we need as a nation to understand that we can still have development, which is economically good for our country, but it has to be more sustainable and more protective of the very things that protect us as a nation.
Meanwhile, the government says drones will be used to monitor development in the Green Island area of Hanover to ensure adherence to environmental permits. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Everald Warmington, made the announcement outlining plans to improve environmental oversight, including the purchase of a drone that will be used in assisting with the monitoring and enforcement of development within the area.
The board of the Negril Green Island Area Local Planning Authority has granted approval for the purchase of a drone in this fiscal year. Drone technology will be utilized in assisting with the monitoring and enforcement of development within the development order area. The officers would be able to collect data and carry out surveys on the ground at a faster pace. This also aids with an aerial perspective of the environment. This is necessary, especially during the pandemic, to ensure that the officers minimize face-to-face interaction with the public whilst carrying out the mandate of the agency. It is our intention to engage a consultant on the integrated water, land, and ecosystem management in Caribbean Small Island Development State project to undertake a reassessment of the height, density, and setback requirement of the confirmed Negril and Green Island development area based on the master plan.
And those are some of the stories making news. We will return with other stories as Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, Pernell Charles Jr. says Jamaica will begin testing its climate predictive system in June, and the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change is collaborating with key stakeholders in the public and private sectors and academia to implement a project to assist in advancing the country's e-mobility agenda. But first, we'll go to a break and then we'll join Christopher Scott with the very latest in sport.